Hey Travis,
Hey Peter, how you
hey
doing?
everybody,
Hey guys,
hey Tracy.
nice to
Nice to meet
meet
you,
you.
Tracy.
Yeah, I see Linda's on here.
I am. Are there no cameras?
Um, yeah, you're set up audio only. I don't know why.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna sneak out and sneak back in.
All right.
Hey David, I don't know David, but hi David.
Hi everyone.
Hey David.
Uh, how's everyone doing?
Okay,
Eh, doing doing all right. Gonna wait a little while for people to file in. Um, Generally, if you've been to one of these, we start these usually 10 to 15 minutes after doors. And just kind of chill out and chat until then. But we will see how things go. All right. See if Linda has video this time. Linda is still audio only. I do not know why. Linda, is your webcam off?
Harumph. Um, hmm. It was just showing me a moment ago. It was showing me to myself,
Interesting. Let me go into settings.
and I can't see anybody's faces either.
Bizarre.
Oh, hang on.
Yeah, you actually have like a tab underneath you that says that you're audio only. You have no camera on
Okay.
there. And I'm not sure as to the reason why that would be. And I don't know how to fix it because I'm actually very bad at Zoom meetings. Ironically, I've done like a good amount of these at this point, and I still don't actually bother how to learn to do them effectively or efficiently. Oh, Claire is here.
Howdy.
Hey,
hey
Claire.
Claire.
Hi. Good to see you all.
No. Yeah.
So, as I mentioned before, we're going to let some people roll in, and we're just chilling until then, unless you are. We do like. Oh, Caitlin's here. We do open mic here. We usually do more at the end, but I kind of open the floor early on if anybody wants to read something short while we kind of wait for people to come in. Putting it out there.
Travis, I feel like you're really quiet and everybody else
Oh,
is louder.
Yeah,
I had
Travis's
issue.
volume is low.
I
Hmm.
had issues with my mic last time too, and I was able to fix it. Let me let James in. James is also audio only. Yeah. Linda and James. Okay. Du- 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 du. Yeah. Setting. How do I sound now? Am I
Uh,
louder?
Not really.
Yeah. Not
Hello?
really.
Wow. Yeah, I'm testing the microphone and okay. How about now?
Unless you're
Hello?
louder.
Hello? Did that work?
Oh. Yeah, that's much better, I think.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's better.
They keep defaulting me to like a low input value every time I open this. And now I have to like go in and fuck with the settings every
They're
time.
trying to
Um
silence you.
yes, my they're trying to silence me. Um my own Zoom meetings don't want me to be here. Um okay. think that holds. All right. Moving things over. Hang on. I was late to the ball game promoting this one, so it might be a little bit more low key, but the good news is we upload these, so anybody who misses them, they'll be able to watch them later.
Yo,
How is
can you
everybody
hear
doing?
me?
Hey, James, yeah,
Yes, I can
Oh,
hear you, James.
you can hear me, but can anyone see anyone else?
I can see
Uh,
everyone except James and Linda.
Linda. No.
yes.
Mm.
Yeah, you're just a name. I don't know what's going on with you two as far as you being audio only. That might have something to do. I don't think I set that setting. Um, there's like a setting, some random setting in there that makes it so like people from other countries can't show video, but I have no idea why I would have toggled that.
I
Okay.
I am technically from another country.
All right. Are
Yeah,
you
I'm
currently in another country?
well, from you, yes, I'm in Canada.
Okay. Um, let me go in here.
At least I'm assuming that you are in the States.
I am in the States. Um, I have
Yeah.
no idea why that would have been toggled though.
James, what's your excuse?
James is in New Zealand.
I have two.
Aha.
If the being in a different country is one excuse, that's one. The other one is I don't know how to do any of this technology stuff, so I
Yeah,
wish I
that's
could do it.
Well, I'm from the UK and you can see me, so I don't know if
out, so
that's.
that can't be it. That
There
can't
you
be it.
go.
All right.
Should I?
I thought that would have been strange. So, yeah, I
Hmm.
don't know why I would have done that.
I'm sure it's easy. Usually, I ask my wife, and then she does something for about 3 seconds, and it works. But I've never learned myself because I always go to her. So I'm helpless on this occasion. I can the only thing I can think of is leaving and coming back, but that's
I've
not
tried that.
Linda's tried that a few times.
Yeah.
Uh, it
I
does not
okay.
seem to be sticking.
But my camera, I did engage camera and audio before I came in and pressed the join button. And then I come in and I can't see anybody and nobody can see me.
Hmm.
Google says it's either low internet bandwidth, disabled camera permissions, so specifically with your computers, or specific host security settings. So it's either Travis's fault or your computer's fault.
Well, it can't be me and James's computer both.
You
Yeah.
It
could,
can't?
yeah, if you don't have camera permissions set up for Zoom. Do you
Hmm.
normally use Zoom?
Yeah, all the time. And I always
Eh,
join from the browser. This is the first time this has ever happened.
You
uh,
join from the browser, but you don't have the app. I
I
wonder.
don't think I do.
Okay. I've done both, but
And I got dressed up for this. I mean, come on, guys. This is
wow. You're making me feel terrible over here. I'm trying to like,
I got some new socks on for this.
yeah.
I see.
Well, if no one can see me, I might as well just ditch the clothes.
Wow.
What's that is
If you want,
literally what I was just thinking.
if you want to
I
like
mean,
read nude, like if you're blacked out, go for it.
the
Just don't,
government might be
just don't do
watching stuff,
anything weird.
just saying.
Um, it's not accessibility. See, normally I just set this up all in advance, and it's usually fine except for my mic, which sometimes I have to turn up. Um, and actually, video and effects, appearance, and I have like, yeah, let me pop this out. I have like a billion tabs now. No, I do not want to create an AI virtual background. No, thank you. Uh, Controls, participant video. Um, yeah, I just have it toggled to show non-video participants, Maximum participants per screen 25. Controls. I'm not seeing anything out of the ordinary. Okay. Yes, I see you, Justin. Stop video.
I'll just try the I know someone else did it, but I'll just try to leave and come back because it did ask me a few things, and I think one of them was video, and I did say yes, but I'll just do that. I'll be right back.
Okay, try it. I'll keep looking around.
Okay.
Uh,
We can make some conversation.
yeah.
Claire, I mean, we don't know each other, but I just got your book a few months ago from Maudlin House. Was it Tell Me How You Really Feel? I'm assuming people have made a Winesburg, Ohio comparison.
I don't think I've gotten that before.
That's what I was thinking, because I read Winesburg in college and then I reread it during the pandemic, and then Mallory at Maudlin reissued it because she's doing all these reissues, and it's that small town life, and that's what I was thinking about.
Oh, well, I love that.
But is Mallory the character in your story? I wanted more from her. Does she appear anywhere else?
She does not, but she's probably very similar to some of my other characters. Um, yeah, I love that book in particular. That might be one of my favorites that I've done because it was a pandemic baby, so most people have not read, like it just went way under the radar, even more than like you would expect for indie lit. And um, it's the only book I wrote that's set in my hometown, so all the setting is real, and none of the characters are real. Like I have no one like them. So it's like that contrast was really fun to play with. So thank you so much for reading it. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I've been trying to, buy some books and support everybody, and um, I just I know Tracy was talking about the Drevlo's book, so I just ordered his book. Um, and Rainbow Road.
It's a good one.
Yeah. And then Linda, I don't know if you can hear me. I just picked up that novella in Flash you were telling me about.
Beth Sherman's or
No,
Nicola Ashbrook.
yeah, I think it was that one, the second one. The really short one, right? You said to
Is it
check it out.
the Violet V?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one's brilliant. I mean, well, so is Beth Sherman's, as Tracy will also tell you.
Beth's is phenomenal, and you
Yeah.
can read it in like an hour and a half, and you can't put it down once you pick it up. It's so good.
Hmm.
All right, gonna give it like 3 more minutes. I have no idea what to tell Linda and James. It's I do not see anything checked off as to why on my end there would be an issue for you two. Especially since David's is working. So yeah, I don't know. Um I'm sorry that you can't see us. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to fix it.
Maybe pop-up
Yeah.
blockers if you're using a browser. It could be your pop-up blockers or something, not recognizing that it's asking for permission to share your video. That's the only other thing I could think.
That's like Chinese to me, all those terms. I don't know what that means. Unfortunately I've depended on someone else for like the last 15 years to do anything. And
Technology
with,
wise.
with technology, yeah. So I just shout, and if they're not home, I just I just
Make it
wait till
work.
they are.
I am almost that bad. I don't know, like I'm learning things slowly in Zoom, but I certainly can't figure this out. And yeah, so like I don't do the only times that I was doing like Zoom meetings for work is like whenever I do an interview for music journalism. And I do that occasionally, but um like big scale Zoom meetings, these are the first ones that I've like done. And so usually there's always like a couple who have like some sort of minor issue, and I kind of just shrug my shoulders. Sometimes somebody might help walk me through something, but the audio only thing is a first, I think. Um, but at least we can hear you. You can still read. Um,
Yes.
and this will be recorded, and if you would like to watch it back and see everybody's shining faces, you can. And we can just I don't know. We can imagine how you look like, and that's more interesting, right? It's like if a person was a very open-ended like micro flash fiction, you know, where you have like a two-word story, and then the interesting part is what you imagine the rest of the story could be.
Or like any erasing piece where you just block out everything.
Right. This is you can visually you're like John Cage's 433. Okay, I think we are going to go ahead and get started. Uh, Thank you, everybody who came. We might have people trickle in later. I know some people said that they might just be late, but this is Dodo Eraser. Some of you have been here before, some of you have not. It's an online reading series. There are others. This one I started late last year. It's a journal. And I basically just try to keep these chill. They are kind of off the cuff, a little sloppy, but I think that hopefully makes them feel inviting. We do loose bios, we do open mics at the end. Anybody who comes to these, I always say, I encourage you to do an open mic if you're just showing up, not on the bill. I encourage everybody to submit to the magazine. We pay a very, very small amount of money for accepted pieces. That's my spiel to kick things off, and we're just going to go ahead and get into the readers right now. First off, we have Claire Hopple. Um, Claire edits for X-Ray. She's got a bunch of books out. She's been doing this for a very, very long time. Very excited to have her read for the first time at a Dodo Racer, and I am going to go ahead and pass it off to Claire.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you all being here. Thank you, Travis, for organizing this. So I just wrote a novel that came out last month called Change the Subject. And it is about an industry that doesn't exist. Um, it's about a lot of things. It's about Jeopardy, it's about the mafia, it's about witness protection. But to explain the industry that doesn't exist, I'm going to read a couple paragraphs from the first chapter that hopefully do that, and then a really, really short chapter a little bit later on. You can also, if you've seen Arrested Development, you can picture the guy who takes the place of the dad while he's in prison and speaks for him. He's got like a camera and a mic, live feed so he can interact with his family, all that stuff. So it's basically that. All right, so here it goes. Proxies like me are becoming popular due to the rise in social flakiness over the last few decades. It's a lucrative market, this proxying business, or lucrative enough. And I got in on the ground floor. When news of the debut proxy service broke, All the sharing economy and gig economy dregs, such as myself, pulled over their hybrid ride shares, begrimed with collegiate puke, halted their SEO optimizations on landing pages for basement apartment short-term rentals, or deleted their passive-aggressive emails to freelancing employers subtly requesting to be paid for the past 5 months of work so that they could step outside and blind themselves with full sun before heading back inside to create their proxy profile. Our clients never want to skip their professional meetings, no matter how dull or routine they might be. They always choose to miss their more intimate obligations involving friends or family, especially family. I once attended a funeral in order to take the place of the widower herself. And I can't tell you how many musicals, dance recitals, soccer games, or college graduations I've attended as a surrogate parent. Not to mention the sex talks I've handed down to wide-eyed children faking shock who'd already heard the story in much greater detail on the back of the school bus a year or two earlier. All this, and I just started a few months ago. We strap cameras to ourselves and follow instructions. Clients have the option to join live and speak into the event from wherever they're streaming it, using us as a mouthpiece, or they can send talking points and receive the recording after the event's over, depending on the situation. I'd rather have them join live, so if things aren't going as planned, they can't blame me for it, or at least not as much. Dance moms are the worst to deal with. Nothing is ever enough for their children. Meanwhile, the children look on, placidly staring into the horizon of auditorium seats like porcelain dolls. Dance moms are always sent to the newest employee. And then this chapter is called Participation Trophy. Nobody gets seriously hurt. That's the main thing. Up until now, Graham's been a rather accomplished escapee. If I haven't mentioned it yet, he's a security guard by day. He secures a gate that holds back a compound of parking lots and office buildings filled with dubious purposes from the commoners. This compound lies somewhere between the city and the suburbs at an island of an exit ramp off the main interstate, right beside a sports bar named Participation Trophy. It's a known fact that someone or a group of someones has been looking for him. They've been after him for quite some time. I should have seen this coming. The resultant brawl that ended in a broken nose and a whole lot of blood, likely a direct consequence of Graham's strong sense of justice. There are countless ways to rough up a security guard. They chose the pugilistic method. Why shouldn't they occupy his little booth at the gate only to renounce mercy and make a real go of it with his face? When it comes to unsightly faces, Graham's now holds some acclaim in this arena. Needless to say, they got carried away. They left the scene of the crime in Boston triumph before they could raise any suspicions amongst the supposedly ordinary citizens milling about their workplaces. Who and why remains unclear at this juncture. Apparently, Graham blacked out on impact, and the memory's rather hazy, so we can't know anything for sure. Graham theorizes a few disgruntled former employees with above-average pluck ended up experimenting with his face, but I have my doubts. He was also recently promoted to chief guard, which for all we know could have caused these unfavorable conditions. His supervisor is getting to the bottom of it as we speak by reviewing security camera footage. Greenwich Mean Time implies the existence of Greenwich Nice Time, Graham says, behind a visage beclouded in bruise. He's looking at something on his phone. I nestle an old t-shirt wrapped in ice beside his left nostril. It's a shirt from my vast collection. You see, I visit a lot of nursing homes and independent living facilities for work. These old folks are often very confused to see me instead of their loved ones. So in addition to my standard proxy branded hat with headlamp and camera attachments, I often wear a large t-shirt with the client's portrait printed on the front. That way, depending on their level of cogency and keenness of eyesight, they can instantly tell who I'm supposed to be representing. With a handful of quasi-traumatic exceptions, I secretly love these visits with the elderly. They show us where we're headed. And it's a good thing I love it because people don't ever want to spend an afternoon with these rather potent, fleshly reminders of human decomposition, but they feel obligated nonetheless. That's where I come in, trying my hardest not to spook the old people who've more than served their time in this realm. I'm still a professional after all. I'm throwing in a load, Graham says, headed up the stairs with his doomed uniform. Have a Greenwich nice time, I say. By now, you know the deli is my favorite coping mechanism. I figure Graham could stand some cheering up too. There's really nothing else to deliberate here. Waiting in line at the deli, I overhear a man in front of me while he's ordering. That's a mistake, I say to his back. But he ignores me or doesn't hear me. Then I order with abandon. These are troubling circumstances, and I'm literally ordering for two. Grasping a paper number in my hand, I observe the comings and goings of this fine establishment, struggling not to think too much about the arrival of my sumptuous sandwich. I hold my position of lying in wait, right by the door. A teenager hands me a bag at long last. I receive it with enthusiasm. Bread, sun-dried tomato enhanced hummus, sprouts, avocado, pickled carrots and cucumbers and jicama, a layer of crushed potato chips, and, lest we forget, hot sauce. Everything necessary to ruin me. Still basking in the glow of captured provisions, I whisper to a stranger at a clean table, now it's your turn. What, too much? Okay, fair. I return to my station on our couch, intermingling with a realm invisible to everyone but me. By that, I mean the novel I'm currently reading. As I read, no matter the context or the book, I always unintentionally picture the scenes playing out in my childhood best friend's yard. Nowhere else. It can't be helped, this phenomenon. But I'm not the only one whose brain does this. That's for sure. There are others out there. I can feel it. As an act of resistance, I chew my food and imagine the fallout from a rumored love triangle between the married owners of the deli and their food supplier. How they could possibly set their feelings aside and get to the business at hand is beyond me. They could be disrupting the eating practices of our entire community before long if they're not careful. They've altered many a lifestyle for the better, and they can't give up now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Claire. It was really, really great. I still need to actually pick up that novel, change the subject. It's been on my list. I get books here and there, and I've seen that promoted a few times, and I've obviously read your fiction out there. And yeah, I like the dialogue with the Greenwich nice time, Greenwich mean time. It's I guess it's dry and it's not but it's funny and it's a very kind of like low key like I don't know how do I put it I don't know it's a very kind of human not trying too hard funny and I appreciate the kind of the naturalist kind of immersion of it and I really really enjoyed that so
Thank you so
um
much.
Okay. Yes, David also enjoyed it. And I believe David, let me pull up my lineup again. I believe David is next. David is next. All right. So next up, we've got more novel excerpts. This time from David Hay, who is beaming in from the UK and whose video does work, which absolves me of my error, I believe, my supposed error. David's had some poems in Dodo Racer, but this is a prose reading, and I'm gonna go ahead and hand it off to David. All right.
Hi everyone. So I'm going to read from a novel that's coming out. It should be in the next month. It's coming out from a Welsh publisher in the UK called Atomic Bohemian Press. It's called No Birds Sing, and it's sort of inspired by my childhood. So it's a growing up, it's a builder's roman type deal. But obviously I've changed things, and so they're not too similar to Home. So I'm just going to read from the first couple of chapters, if that's okay. So it starts with a kind of prologue, which is kind of like a poetic disclaimer to kind of stop everyone hating me when I wrote it. So, shards of light flash in and out of existence, resting on the pebbles, on the ripples of water, as the wind blows the tree branches laden with leaves from side to side. He is alone, as he always pitched himself to be. Alone in the light, in the dark, next to the river that drowned each thought. The sun was slowly falling below the horizon. The night was slowly consuming the day. Every muscle, every hair, and every breath taken seemed to him to be one with the earth of the heavens above and the dirt below. There was nothing he saw now that was unremarkable. He was lost in reverie. He rolled, then lit a cigarette. The smoke briefly clouded the few stars in the sky. So many things had happened, and so few of them were worth telling. His childhood years were on the precipice of silence. Those who had held that time together were gone. If not now, there would be no when. Lie down and rest your head on the grass. Memories are no more accurate than dreams. We are all going to die. Write, read, and fend off forgetting for an instant. To the boy who I drowned in me long ago, I'm trying to give you back your voice, though the tone and hue is lost. To my grandparents, I give you my last memories, dreams, and what's left of your mythology. To my parents and everyone else whose stories are fiction encircling the core of my grandparents' lives, these are not representative of you. These are shadows extracted from the minds of my limited imagination. This fiction, this fact. So chapter 1. Full muddied and cut, Ian washed himself. It hurt, but he couldn't let anyone else see the pain, not even the birds. He could hear his mother's desperate calls. Ian, who just a few minutes before had blissfully sat in the heart of life, watching the individual water ripples move beyond the rays of light, started to feel scared. Her frantic cries turned the resplendent world that breathed into the boy, and he in turn breathed into it, into something harrowing in its vastness. The track, wet from a recent light shower, expanded in front of his eyes. He looked back, seeking security in the river that gave life to the land. But the river had changed. It had become wild, violent, and full of hatred. He whispered to God, but even as he desperately prayed, the sky grew above him, stretching out into eternity. He ran as fast as his legs could go until he reached the small bridge, then walked carefully, afraid that each stone was a trap door that would release him into the water below. Once trembling legs and arms made it to the other side, the river called him, whispering its deep secrets, haunting him, but with a seductive grace, enticing him to return, to jump in. His mother's calls sounded deeper, louder in his mind, and the compulsion to jump was replaced by the need to be held. He ran through the waist-high grass to the enclosure of the trees that formed a tunnel leading to the playing field. His friends' stories about kids being kidnapped by travellers and who were never seen again flashed repeatedly like dying stars across the darkness of his mind. He looked for them out the corner of his eyes. Terror was behind every tree, lurking in the shadows, under the foliage, monsters beyond form, beyond imagining, dark, terrible things that completely consumed him. He ran faster. Ian's world grew with a terrible beauty. He turned his head and looked past the tunnel of trees, past the river, to the warehouse behind, perched on the horizon, devouring the skyline, a monstrosity of white concrete, emotionless, not of the earth, filling him with pain, a world beyond control, beyond kindness, a dead rock with a dead soul, revolving, revolving into nothingness. He saw his mum next to the swings, her eyes damp with recent tears. With arms outstretched, she embraced him. His fear departed with the first touches of her skin against his and the smell of her perfume, sharp and rigidly blue. There was a great silence of his body and mind when close to her. Even time seemed to halt its ceaseless march forward. You stupid, stupid boy, I told you never to go to the river. Ian just sobbed, his tears doing more to comfort her than words could ever do. She held his hand tightly and walked him home, her stern eyes focused unfalteringly upon the skyline. But she did not see the sky, only what could have been, the emptiness of life without her child, her greatest friend and ally against the world, her beacon beyond cynicism and pessimism. A boy, of course, unworthy of such hopes or dreams, just a boy flawed like all the others, who would soon break and spend his life trying to piece himself back together. Chapter 2. Ian noticed that he was spending less time at his grandparents' house. He asked his mum why, but she sharply replied, "What's wrong with here, eh? Don't you want to spend more time with your own mum and dad?" The boy looked at his feet. "Yeah, but why?" "Because that's the way it is." Any time his mum said this or something equally as final, he would stop asking. There was no point arguing with her when she was like that. It wouldn't matter how reasonable he was or how just. Nothing could break her resistance to the outside world. His dad frequently remarked that she was as stubborn as a mule and as stupidly convicted in her beliefs as a knight of the Crusades. But Ian would come to understand that when she was like this, it wasn't stubbornness for stubbornness' sake, but tiredness and lonesomeness, which she just couldn't bear. She was done. It wasn't just to be awkward or spiteful, but because of the realization that words could no longer be any of use to her. It wasn't a conscious decision, but an automated defense mechanism deployed in a desperate attempt to elevate her above the recesses of her grief. His dad, as per usual, was sitting in his chair with the newspaper in his hands and one of his radios blasting out either the news or music from the 70s. On this day, it was the music from his favourite decade. No music since as compared to that decade. It had everything in it, even punk. Ian wasn't into music heavily. He had a copy of Forever Changes by Love, which he listened to when he could be bothered. He knew that was from the 60s, so he figured that must be the best decade there had to be, if there had to be one. He had seen the album on his dad's CD rack, and the cover had instantly pulled him in with the rainbow-coloured heads of the band members merging into one another, both creepy and beautiful. He also liked the photograph on the back of the CD of the lead singer, Arthur Lee, with his hand dog appearance, carrying a broken vase. Ian, however, would never openly contradict his father, as he would get that look in his eye, which would make Ian feel as if his breath had been cut in two. It wasn't because he would do anything untoward to him, but that look, which would come for no reason at all, or at the best from the most trifling one, was so damn dense and dark it made Ian feel like he was made of nothing. Ian bravely asked his dad why he was visiting his grandparents less often. He looked away from his father when he asked him. His father hadn't noticed him standing there. He was too immersed in some mundane tragedy or political scandal. A Motown record was playing quietly in the background. "Dad?" "Yes, son." "Why can't I see Nanny and Da like normal?" His father put down the paper down on the side table, and Ian prepared for a telling off, pushing his feet together to feel comforted. But his father looked gently upon him. "Come here, son, and sit on my knee." Ian felt strange. He hadn't sat on his father's knee since the time they used to play wolves when he was very young. They would crawl along the floor with his dad as the pack leader. They would go about the house like it was a great snowy pine forest and pretend to hunt and have play fights, which his father would always let him win. They would even chase his mother, who would scream between her constant laughter, then run upstairs and say, nearly out of breath, "You devils, you, go and torture someone else." They would bark and howl at her until they got bored, or she would get that look in her eyes, which they knew meant that the time of merriment was over, and both would pretend to be respectable human beings again. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, David. Um, Again, so obviously very, very different from what Claire just did. A lot more kind of a somber tone to it. I'm more familiar with your poetry. I've read your fiction a little bit, but obviously I first kind of interfaced with you with your poetry. Your poetry, especially the ones that you sent, very kind of like surrealist dreamscape stuff, and this is really, really great in a very kind of different way, which I always find interesting. I guess when it, because you have the poets in this space and you have the fiction writers in this space, and then sometimes when people do both, um there's kind of, I guess, an obvious alignment between the two, and I feel like on some level, like the voice is still there. It's kind of this lilting kind of, I guess, dreaminess to it, but this is still a lot more, I guess, grounded, um, immersive in a very, very different way. Um, and yeah, I'm looking forward to picking that up when it's available and reading that. Thank you for reading.
Thank you very
Uh,
much, Rob.
gonna keep moving right along. Let me see. Yes. Next up, we have a uh, our faceless boy, one of only two people to have two separate contributions to Dodo Eraser so far. Coming from New Zealand, one of my favorite writers right now, James Callan, and really excited to hear him read. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to James.
Thank you. That was very kind of you. It's Callan. That's okay though. A lot of people say Callan.
Callan. Okay.
Um,
Sorry.
yeah,
James
it's
Callan.
okay.
I'm correcting
Hey,
myself now.
I had the magazine name wrong, if you
Uh,
recall. I was spelling it wrong.
yes, yes, you were
So
calling it Dodo Erasure, which I forgive you for. So, we're
yeah,
even
and
now.
and in all of my notes and everything, I also did the same. So that's
All good.
okay.
All right, I'm going to mute myself now and let you go.
So you can't see me, and I did have a picture to show you to go along with this, which I can't do. But I'll just do a really quick backstory to what I'm reading to explain it, which might be useless without the picture. But I watched this Hungarian movie um, that's quite old, from the 70s, and it was about a Hungarian painter. And the movie was awesome, but and left an impression on me. And I looked at his paintings, which they're good paintings, but it was more the mood of the man in the movie. And I just decided, as like an exercise, and also because I couldn't stop thinking of this movie, which unfortunately I can't tell you the name of because it's in Hungarian and I just butcher it, and I can't show you it because my camera's fucked. So I'll just I'll get that information to you later. But this painting that I'm basing this short piece off that I'm about to read, it's called "The Lonely Cedar," and it's just a picture of exactly what it says it is, a lonely cedar, and it's in these kind of barren, muddy hills with the sea in the background. And I use that as a way to just sort of let my imagination go from there, just from the picture, kind of like a word prompt or something. So that went well for me, and I kind of took the vibe of the film, which is a man who's losing his mind, into account while writing it. So this one is called "The Lonely Cedar." Right. Here we go. The cedar stands alone among the barren folds of scree. The earth is hazelnut butter, melting in mounds, oozing into robin egg waves. White tides fan the sea like the wide wingspan of a wandering albatross. The orcapods are bits of grit fouling a pane of glass. The wind-whipped cedar watches the trawlers, tiny glints in the distance, the coming and going of clouds, the moonfalls, and many sunsets. The cedar has a low, long branch that is stripped of its bark. Smooth as bone, it's like the bleached femurs of the young ladies that Farmer Ted uses for the tines of his harrow. Invasive possums nest in the highest branches, eating the native birds, their eggs, and their babies. Locals arrive to shoot the interlopers, making trapper hats from their pelts of the kills and selling them to the tourists, whom they sometimes murder or rob in the darkness, reclaiming the wares they have sold. The roots of the cedar mine the depths of the hills, burrowing like heartworm, creating caves with tunneling tendrils, a hoary fist of white-knuckled rage wrenching at the womb of Mother Earth. The crones command the initiates of the coven to bleed their goats and firstborn sons to feed the roots of the lonely cedar, believing their sacrifices will quell the ire of the horned lord, the bark-skinned prince who sleeps in the form of a tree, but will one day wake in the form of fire, consuming them all. The trunk of the cedar bears the etching of a heart, a carving centered with the initials J and L. Jade and Lewis have been seen holding hands, so their sin is assumed, and their justice is swiftly delivered. They are strung by their ankles, flogged with the cat o' nine tails, whipped with the wolf o' 10 claws. They are left to the ravens, who flee from the gunshots that fell the possums, whose pelts make fine trapper hats sold to the tourists, whose throats are slit in the night, their bodies buried in the gnome dens of the lonely cedar. Days later, the locals discover that Jade and Lewis are entirely innocent. It was Jessica and Joe, after all, so the ritual is repeated. The cedar stands alone among the barren folds of scree. Beyond the clear-cut hills, storm clouds cast dramatic shadows, swaths of batshit black. The breath of Erebus howls like a foghorn from the ghost ship of demonic mariners. The hills quake and the cedar sways. Possums fall like apocalyptic comets, concussed and made dumber than usual. The crown of the cedar is bent toward the sea, kneeling in prayer amid the burgeoning darkness. Lightning torches a totem, and the possums that remain burn like condemned witches. The hurricane winks its cycloptic eye, a dance macabre riding the horizon. For once, the gulls shut up. Slivers of sun gleam against the glare of the storm, tears falling in sheets to agitate the sea. Dolphins rise to poke their banana noses, and a rainbow, like a banner of victory, builds a bridge across the brightening blue. The castle looms on an island offshore, shrouded in silhouette like a bent-back titan. A tomb for seals and sailors, beached whales, and sun-scorched crabs. Here lie the scattered toy blocks of a toddler god. From the center of the bailey, reaching for the jagged edge of its ruinous walls, a young cedar grows toward the light, hoping to catch a glimpse of another of its kind. So that's based on that painting, and just kind of let myself go with it. I have one other piece, and it's I've been told when I first shared this with a friend that I'd never get it published because it's offensive. So I decided to read it. But it has been published by Don't Submit, and I actually really love it. And I don't think it needs to be offensive, but I'll let you guys be the judge of that. It's called Love in the Eye of the Cyclops. There was a girl with Downs who rode the short bus. We called her Cyclops because she only had one eye. She'd stare out the window, always from the back left seat, looking right at me, craning her neck to keep her single eye fixed upon me until the short bus was a yellow dot on the horizon. Her other eye, the false eye, was made of bone, so the rumors would have us believe. It was the talk of all the kids on the long bus, Her false eye is fashioned from whalebone, and in it, Cyclops harbors the soul of an Atlantic leviathan. The thing about this girl with Downs, Cyclops, whose real name was Martha, she had a body like the girls on the long bus dreamed of for themselves. She had college girl tits at 16 and legs as long and shapely, as smooth and hairless as a porpoise. They sprouted out of an ass that was large without becoming overbearing, the perfect ass. And that one living eye, it was red, red, but not in the demonic way. It was like roses in peak bloom, fresh cut watermelon, rich and vibrant like the split blood of a sworn enemy. I'm not afraid to admit it. I fell in love with Cyclops, whom I will offer the due respect she deserves and call her by her given name, Martha. I fell in love with Martha, even though we had never shared a word between us. But we had shared all those glances, those long, static glances from the short, dynamic bus. Was it her body? Her Michelangelo perfection? It was perhaps the initial draw, but it was more than that. Oh, so much more. Martha, through the back left window of the short bus, left me breathless. I'm certain she cast a spell using her single gelatin eye, or perhaps the other, her off-white orca optic. But either way, she snared me good, harpooning my heart and netting me as I floated to the surface, drawn in by her merciless beckoning. My teenage lust was secret and painful. It was ultimate bliss and dreadful agony, a strange guarded worship. My temple was the short bus. My ritual was masturbation, humping the bed. My God? Who else but the queen of the sea, the subduer of naval monsters and of landlubber men? Who else but Martha, an earthbound siren born to the surf? It was worse than death by fire when I found out why the short bus no longer carried Martha. It was her death, and my heart afire. The obituaries hit me like a tidal wave, her name and picture heavier than a beach blue whale. It was death by drowning, a poolside accident, a pool party, a birthday party, and no one had shown. That was the rumor, anyways, that washed up like a trash-laden tide, the dirty talk and open laughter in the back of the long bus. Martha was gone, but my rituals never died. In the eye of the Leviathan bone, I found my calling. In the eye of the Cyclops, I found my love. And I wrote that one inspired by these cutscenes in a show called Kingdom, which is a Danish show that's fantastic if you haven't heard of it or seen it. Very odd, Lars von Trier. And there were some in this, it's about a haunted hospital. And the sole inspiration for that was just these two dishwashers. They're like the cafeteria dishwashers. And I just, every time they were on the screen, I loved it. They were sort of like oracles in this very weird show. They knew what no one else seemed to know. They had more wisdom in them than like the director of the hospital or the surgeons. And they were just these kind of lowly dishwashers. And I thought that was really cool. And they were two actors with Downs. So that was the inspiration that came from that. Extremely loosely related, but just popped into my head when I was watching that show. So those are the two pieces I had for you today.
All right, thank you, James. So I had so I'd read the don't submit piece. I believe I can't remember when it was, but I recalled that one. And there you have such like again, different registers. This one kind of reminds me, I mean it's different, but the one that you published in Dodo first, House of the Sun, where like the way that you kind of describe kind of a very strange sense of longing. Um and I mean longing isn't something that is uh like a unique topic, but you always cut like a very kind of interesting angle to it, and you are I think what I appreciate about it is that it feels very reverent but it's a very kind of atypical reverence. It's reverence for, I guess, things that you wouldn't normally associate with it. And so, like, I can understand why somebody might look at the do not submit piece and find it, I don't know, difficult, I guess might be the word for it. But
Yeah.
I feel like I sense a good amount of love in what you do, even when it is tricky. And I really appreciate authors who are not trying to, I guess, be edgy or controversial for its own sake, but who are willing to kind of find those pockets of complication and make you really kind of think in ways that are not necessarily um, easily digestible. But
Yeah.
I find that piece strangely beautiful, and in general, um, the way that you write prose again, very interesting kind of metaphors and just really kind of elegant work, and very 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 nice to also hear some backstory on those pieces. So thank you, James.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
We are moving along, and next up we have Tracie Adams. Um, Tracy just had a really, really great piece in the bulb region. I'm not sure if she's gonna read it. I guess we'll find out. But in general, she's been a bunch of places. I've been reading more of her recently. I read her yeah, what was it? Let me sorry, I have like crazy brain fog recently. What was it? Let's see. Uh, I'm not finding it right now. I'm losing my mind. Anyways, um, I did read the Bulb Region piece recently, and I was blown away by it. And it's short, but it's super super efficient, and I'm excited to hear whatever Tracy has to read for us today. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass it along to Tracy. Stop rambling.
Thank you so much, Travis, for having me here tonight. It's great to meet so many of you. Um, I'm not reading that piece tonight. I figured it was so fresh off the press. Probably many of you you just read it, so I've kind of pulled out some things that I actually hadn't read for a while. The first, I'm going to read a couple of super short little things. I write mostly creative nonfiction, so that's what I'm going to read for you tonight. The first thing is something that was published last year in Neither Fish Nor Fowl. I wrote it in a Kathy Fish workshop. If you've ever taken one of Kathy's workshops, you know, she's so brilliant and she'll like tell you, make a list of nouns and then make a list of verbs and just kind of put those together and, you know, do something brilliant. And then everybody in the workshop like does something brilliant and then they read them and then you're just sitting there going, God, I'm not reading mine. But in that workshop, I kind of, in the end, I sort of came up with something that was, well, maybe not brilliant, but it took a bit, but I came up with this and it's called The Chase. Addiction is a hungry tiger, insatiable, never satisfied, always wanting. You were only 14 when you reached for the lock, opened the cage, released the beast. Since that first day when you hid in your closet, gorging yourself with pie and chips, feeding the fear, and trying to forget the shame of childhood abuse, you've been on the run. The line between hunter and prey is thin and blurred, like the stripes on on the tiger's face, contorted as black lips disappear to reveal polished fangs. You'll keep running and running, never at rest, your icy breath caught in your chest. You want it all: the drugs, the sex, the exercise, the starvation, the shopping, so many ways to anesthetize. Like a beast on the run, you cannot resist your fate. Too ashamed to leave the cage and too afraid to look back. Smoke one more, take the shot, skip the meal, run like hell. You'll be hunted. The smell of your fear, the sweat of your desire will keep the tiger close on your heels. Another pill, another drink, it'll have you in its grasp. You'll see four muscular limbs reaching up from below, claws shredding your resolve, tearing your weak flesh piece by pulpy piece. When you taste vomit mixed with blood, the stench of your shameful lust will rise like incense to an altar you built with your own hands. Recovery is a lamb. When it appears in the haze, eyes shining like the noonday sun, you question your sanity, you question your doubt, you question your life. You flush the pills, watch vodka circle the drain, whisper a prayer. On hallowed ground, you climb inside the empty cage, hands reaching for the bars to shield you from the terror of the lamb's holy light. But the lamb comes to rest beside your emaciated frame, wagging its red tongue like a battle flag. One last roar echoes through a starlit sky, and the tiger retreats. You sleep in the warmth of lamb's wool, your sins atoned and your spirit renewed, but you dream of stripes moving like lightning in the dark, the sound of breathless panting pursuing you. It will not end here. It'll start all over again in the morning. And that also is in my first book, Our Lives in Pieces. The second one I'm going to read for you. This one was actually just published recently in Anti-Heroin Chic. I wrote this one about my relationship with my older brother. He's a year older than me, and any of you have siblings will probably relate to this. It's called Counting to Eight and Other Childhood Games. You held me underwater in a pool at a roadside motel. As I kicked and clawed against your palm, I heard you counting. 1, 2, 3. We had seen Jaws that summer, and through the blur of chlorine, I was certain I'd feel teeth before you reached 8. When you let me up, I gulped air like a newborn. You laughed. Sometimes your love was sharp like teeth. When you withheld it, that felt more like drowning, one strangled breath at a time. I locked you in a refrigerator. Your body crumpled like a rump roast. The only sound was the soft thud as it rocked and kissed the wall over and over, and me crying, too weak to pull the door open. Mom spanked me, but it hurt worst when you shut the door in my face, wouldn't let me play with your G.I. Joes or watch you build towers with your erector set. Your silence punched me like fists. You threw my cheerleading pom-poms in the dirt, called my championship medals cute. I wrecked your mini bike into a tree. You didn't speak to me for a week. You made a new friend, a boy who shot arrows straighter than I could. He huddled beside you on the football field where I wasn't invited. You pinned my wrist above my head and grinned while I thrashed. When Mom asked what happened, you laughed. Nothing. She always believed you. You won because you understood early that silence is a weapon, that the rules were different for you. You could open doors I couldn't. Maybe you felt scared or jealous or lonely, but you never had to say it. I lost because I talked too much, followed you everywhere, loved you out loud. We were children learning to love. You learned to withhold. I learned to chase. But love shouldn't feel like being held underwater, waiting for someone else to decide when you can breathe. The worst part wasn't how reckless our love was. It was that one day we surfaced from childhood to find we drifted apart. The games were over, and neither of us was counting anymore. Okay, and now I've got two pieces for you out of this book, is my most recent one, not finished yet. This one was published in Dish Soap Quarterly. back in July of 25. This one was for my nephew who we lost to leukemia. And we used to like to eat Chinese food together. So this one is called For the Love of Hot Mustard. I walk into Chen's, our favorite Chinese restaurant, and the owner flashes a toothy grin at me across the counter, his eyebrows raised with recognition. He asks about you. Why nephew not come? Feeling okay? Great, never better, I say. I do not say that I was flying on Spirit Airline when you passed me in the clouds. I was on my way to vacation in Florida, and you were on your way to paradise. I do not say that you died before your birthday, that you flew away to the spirit in the sky and won't be coming back, won't be eating Kung Pao chicken. I don't order the hot and sour soup because that was your thing. But I do order extra of the chicken egg rolls that you and I both craved with some veggie lo mein. I try to love what you loved, always hoping I might find you there among garden gnomes and Looney Tunes, matcha smoothies, and dinosaurs. At the zoo, I searched for you in a dark exhibit of beetles and exotic bugs. I imagined you pressing your hands to the glass, your face a deep well of wonder. Chen hands me the brown paper bag, warm on the bottom, ginger and sesame memories escaping through the stapled top. I choke down a sob. I'm regretting not getting the soup. What if my palate is changed? Or what if I just do something hard for once? Something to honor your bravery, the way you fought for your life against cancer in your blood. But I do not get the soup. Instead, I'm standing here thinking about you, how when I asked you where it hurt, you said, my blood hurts. You would slurp spoonfuls of that soup, moaning and nodding with each gulp as if you'd already crossed over through the veil to heaven. I'm lost in visions of you bathing those egg rolls in hot mustard, your lips puckered like you bit a lemon. Visions of you shaking your head back and forth as the heat pricks your nasal passages and stuns your brain with fire. Visions of your hospital bed littered with dropped bits of cabbage and soy sauce. When Chen looks at my eyes, glassy and shimmering, he knows everything. I know that he knows because he bends his lanky body at the waist, a bow in honor of your memory, in honor of the empty space you left behind, in honor of everything you ever loved. He hands me another small bag of his special hot mustard, and as I open my mouth to say, sorry, so sorry, I cannot love hot mustard, he presses it into my open palms anyway and whispers empathy as pure as new birth. You try. Maybe you like. Sorry. It's been a couple of years, but it's still hard for me. I miss that kid. Okay, this last one is super short, like a minute and a half, and it's not sad, I promise. This one I wrote for my kids and grandkids, and it's kind of a little prose poem-y thing. It was published in Wildscape last year. It also is I'm reading from my book. It's called 9 Perfect Days. I hope you remember too. Grandma forgot your dad's birthday this year. She's forgotten everyone's birthday, including her own, so it's not personal, but somehow it cut him deeper than any loss he's ever suffered. There's profound sorrow in the moment when a mother forgets. Children, listen to me. Burn me, scatter me, plant me in clay soil, and still I will remember you. 4 children, 5 grandchildren, 9 days I remember, looking into your eyes for the first time, seeing the whole world reflected back to me in your baby blue gaze. Those days were perfect then, and they will be perfect for eternity. I held you, I saw you, I knew you. Burn me, scatter me, plant me beneath a tree that blooms in spring. Even my ashes will not forget how I rocked you through cold nights and long days we thought would never end. Keep these words, hold them tight to yesterday when I made you sandwiches the way that you liked it without crust, when I bandaged your skinned knees and broken hearts with my arms around you, when I sat in the audience, never taking my eyes off of you because you were my shining star. You were the light I awakened to. You were the song whose lyrics I sang in my sleep. You were the fruit that nourished me. Burn me, scatter me, visit me under the weeping cherry tree, and know that you were not forgotten. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tracy. All of those were excellent. I looked up the one that I had read. It was a dork literary piece, The Bear Who Loved Me.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, obviously a little bit long for the sets here. I really appreciate Dork. I feel like a lot of the spaces around here don't do like really, really long form, so it's nice to have a place like that for stuff like that. But loved all of those. Was especially moved by the dish soap piece. I feel like I'm a broken record at this point where I bring up like the value of the reading versus just on the page. Although again, the prose in that, the descriptors um are very, very potent in the sense that it felt like I was watching through your eyes the way that you described it. And I feel like that's very, very important to get kind of the emotional impact of that setting. Um, and again, to hear your voice as you read it and feel how real it is. I think that's very, very valuable. I feel like it's that extra level of tapping into humanist empathy. Um, and I was very affected by it. I imagine other people were, and thank you for sharing that one. Um, I'm going to go ahead and again do my sloppy introduction for our next reader. Next up, we have Peter DeMarco, who is like, I don't know, at this point I feel like he's one of the nicest guys in the space. I feel like he's always commenting and cheerleading for everybody. But past that, he's an excellent writer. He's done open mics before. He read his recent Unoya piece at an open mic. I believe it was, I don't know if it was the last reading or the reading before that, but it was recently. I read Trophy in Pithead Chapel recently, and very, very impressed by Peter. Again, I want to shout out Bulb Region again. Peter's work in Bulb Region, and excited to have him officially on the bill for the first time. So I'm
Thank you,
going to
Travis.
hand things off to Peter.
Thank you, Travis. Yes, thank you for that nice introduction. I try to be supportive, leave a nice comment. Um, I mean, the writer put so much out there, and I like to just point out something specific about each piece I read. Um, I've got a piece in Doric coming out, so I'm following Tracy there. I think November 1st, I was honored to get the acceptance. I was shocked. Piece had been rejected twice, and I was really shocked and honored. I was thinking of reading that one tonight, but I'm not. Um, I dabble in creative nonfiction and fiction. Um, so tonight I'm going to go with fiction. It was published in New World Quarterly, April 6th, 2025. It's one of what I call my Henry stories, suburban alienated guy. I've had a number of stories about Henry and put them in a novella. Haven't had any luck getting it published. Linda Bailey is so kindly and supportively helping me possibly turn it into a novella in Flash. So here's the piece. It's called It's Not About Lions. Let me just pull it up here. The man sitting next to Henry wore an army fatigues jacket and appeared to be in his late 20s. A pack of Marlboro sat on his desk. That was the thing about college, Henry was learning. You could have someone any age in your class, even war veterans. At least there were no more high school bullies. They sat in a small group discussing the Ernest Hemingway short story about a wealthy man who goes hunting and shows fear when a lion charges, and at the end gains the courage to face another charging lion, but is killed by his wife, who claims it was an accident. I think the story is a metaphor for how to live your life, a girl in the group said. I've seen life, the veteran said, and lions don't shoot back. That's why it's a metaphor, she said. He's using the lion to make a point about fear. It's not about lions, the veteran said. He took a folded newspaper article from his notebook that showed a photo of him holding a rifle in what looked like a backyard. He stood next to the kind of hole that a backhoe would dig. I contracted this company to dig a pool, he said, but there was a problem with my government checks, and I couldn't make a payment, so they stopped digging. Every day I'd walk into the yard with my coffee and stare at that hole. I called them and said I'd get the money, but I guess they didn't trust anyone who'd been in Vietnam. Months later, the construction company's supervisor showed up in his backyard wanting to get paid. The vet was having a barbecue. You know what he does, the vet said? He takes a beer from the cooler and says if he can't get his money, he might as well have a drink. I got my rifle and a shovel. I told him to dig. The veteran was arrested and charged with aggravated assault, but the charge was eventually reduced and settled. The article was written up by the suburban paper. He passed it around. His name was George. I made that fucker dig, he said, in front of all my guests. There's your metaphor. The class was silent. Henry wasn't sure he understood the point. That's my definition of whatever you want to call it, George said. Forget about your lions. It's about family and backyard and hot dogs. It's about fucking pools. The teacher thanked him for sharing his story. After class, they walked out into the square. Henry watched George light a cigarette and sit on a stone wall. Henry wondered how you can sit in a classroom after being in war. He was just an usher at a movie theater where he ripped tickets, swept up popcorn, and found lost objects under seats on sticky floors. Where was the real life in that? A week later, in a film class elective, Henry watched a foreign film called The Bicycle Thief. It was made in Italy. Henry had never seen a film with subtitles. The story was engaging. A father and son looking for the father's stolen bicycle that he needs for work. But at the end, the father steals someone else's bike and is chased, becoming no different than the thief he originally pursued. A good man now suddenly looking like a bad man. The lights came up. Henry stared at the blank screen. You all right, a voice said. Henry turned around. It was George. Yeah, Henry said. They left the theater and walked into the sunlight. Henry felt disoriented after watching a movie in a dark theater in the morning. George offered him a cigarette. Don't smoke, Henry said. You think I freaked people out the other day? George asked. Maybe, Henry said. My wife almost left me after that, he said. She made me go into therapy. What are you studying? My father owns a hardware store, Henry said. Wants me to learn the business so I can take over one day. I want to make a movie. I've always liked cameras. They walked to the cafeteria and had coffee. Henry said the movie made him think about the time he got caught stealing records at a department store, he said. I had allowance money. I don't know why I did it, because I was raised to be good. Maybe you were tired of being good all the time, George said. Why do you think the father stole the bike? He's frustrated, can't get his bike back, the bike he needs to support his family. They're poor. Who knows? Maybe it was a fuck you to the system, a subconscious kind of thing. George looked around. I didn't even finish high school, he said. After Vietnam, I realized they don't teach you shit anyway. They sat in silence. Then George asked for a ride home. My car's in the shop, he said. My wife dropped me off. Henry had seen documentaries on Vietnam. Soldiers in elephant grass, the jungle, rivers, covered in mud, surrounded by deafening explosions and gunfire. And now here was a guy dealing with mundane things like getting his car repaired and a ride home from school. The veteran's house was a Cape Cod style. He pointed to the street. Four white bases formed a diamond between the maple trees. I painted those for the kids before I left for Vietnam, he said. They sat in the den, complete with shag rug, stereo console, coffee table, couch, and fireplace. On the mantel above the fireplace was a baseball trophy and a row of framed family pictures. George lit a cigarette and put a record on the turntable, a song about being in the desert on a horse with no name. He picked up a baseball glove from the coffee table and sat back on a recliner. He pounded the glove. They didn't talk for a little while. Then George said, I thought the song was about a guy on a horse, but in Vietnam, someone told me that horse was slang for heroin and the song was about addiction. Yeah, nobody teaches you shit. He pounded the glove again. Henry walked up to the mantel. Next to the trophy were Little League pictures. There was also a movie camera, 16 millimeter, shaped like a square box. Bell and Howell. There were chinks in the metal. I smuggled that home from the war, George said. The cameraman was killed. The film is still in there. Do you want to know what's on it? I know what's on it, he said. He got up and took the camera off the shelf. He sat back down with it. He caressed the metal. Real life, he said. That's what's on it. The shit they don't teach you. Do you think the film is still good? Maybe, said George. A photojournalist had been filming him and a friend in a foxhole, and the friend was in the middle of telling the camera how he'd just gone to the prom and now he was being shot at and how fucked up that was, and then a sniper blew his head off. The cameraman was killed a few minutes later. George pounded the glove. Henry looked out the sliding glass door that led to the yard. He saw the giant hole, rectangular in shape. He was surprised it was still there. George joined Henry at the door. Nice pool, right? He said. There's your fucking system. He said his wife wanted the hole filled in, but he wanted to keep it as a symbol to show how the system doesn't help the regular guy. Or a metaphor, Henry said. George laughed. You know what's crazy? He said. Before the war, I never even had a fist fight. You know what's crazy? Henry said. I failed shop class and my father wants me to work in his hardware store. What kind of genes did I pass on to you? He said. The son of a carpenter and you fail shop. My mother said I had history in my genes, that I came from Civil War descendants, my great grandfather. Like that makes me some kind of superhero. It doesn't matter if you're related to fucking Custer or Napoleon, George said. Nobody can teach you how to face death. Henry said he had to go help at the store. George thanked him for the ride and gave him his phone number in case Henry ever wanted to talk. The needle on the record player was stuck in a groove, repeating the lyrics over and over, but George didn't seem to notice. He kept hitting the glove, soft, and then a little harder, methodical, and Henry can still hear the sound as he left the house. Henry's father was out to lunch. He sorted nails and screws into little plastic boxes that resembled mini coffins. A picture of Jesus stared at him from the wall. It was half covered by a stack of paperwork. After Henry's mother died, the church pastor stopped by the store and gave his father the picture. He said Jesus was a carpenter, so it seemed appropriate to have him looking over his father's store, the hearth of the community. Jesus had his hand on the shoulder of a suffering man. Henry suddenly understood something. Maybe his reason for stealing was a subconscious one, too. A fuck you message to Jesus for failing to save his mother. Who the hell was Jesus anyway? There were no real pictures of him. He was just a plastic baby in a manger at Christmas, a ghost behind a rock. And the stuff they taught you in school was irrelevant, like George said. Nothing about real life, like the smell of waste in the hospital room because your mother's kidneys had failed, and how you were supposed to go back to school like nothing happened and do makeup work and try to avoid the bully who called you a faggot and pummeled your face for not letting him cheat off you, leaving your blood fossilized in the cracked granite crevices of the high school bathroom. Henry took the picture off the wall and ripped it up. He locked the store. He didn't have his father's proclivity for building or fixing things. He was done being guided into things he didn't believe in. He drove to the theater, took out the ladder, and put up the black tiles on the marquee for a new horror movie, Halloween. He called George from the owner's office. He wanted to tell him about his new insight. He let the phone ring for a long time before hanging up. Maybe George was picking up his car at the shop, or watching the kids play in the street, or maybe he was standing at the sliding glass door, pounding the glove, and still staring at the hole. Thank you.
Really, really excellent stuff. Again, the main thing that I'm gonna point out is like the character work, the dialogue. Um, that you are very very good at writing interesting conversations that still feel very very rooted in reality. They're not stretching too far. Um, and lots of quotables, but not shoehorned in quotables, which is a very hard line to thread or needle to thread. Uh, Powerful stuff.
Thank
Again,
you.
I feel like that one, and again Tracie's leukemia piece got me. I think in very different ways. Again, this one has a lot more, I guess, just anger, but a very kind of um, reasonable, understood anger. Uh, yeah, really good stuff. Really, really good stuff. And
Thank you,
appreciate you
Travis.
reading that. We've got one more reader left. Is our returnee for Justin. You here? I'm gonna make sure that Justin is
Yeah,
here.
I'm here. I did not fall
Hey,
asleep.
hey, Justin. All right. My chat window or my participants window is very small, and you weren't in the top row, so I just wanted to make
Well,
sure because you've been quiet. So Justin's our returnee. I imagine a lot of you know Justin. He runs Some Words. He has a new book of poems, Laterals, but it's gonna be a pro set today. I'm going to pass things over to Justin. Thank you for reading, and I'm going to hand it off now.
hey, thanks for having me on this and all that. I haven't done like a fiction reading in like I don't even know how long, 14 or 15 years or something probably. It's been a long time. I've just been focusing on poetry, but I have a short story collection coming out next year. I don't think I've told anyone that except for you people right now. So I'm gonna read a couple of short ones from it as soon as I get them open. Right. This is called Winter Storm. It was that February all of Texas turned to ice. I spent 3 days in my apartment, the power flickering on and off every few hours. Just me, the cat, a bottle of vodka I was nursing. By the time it was gone and I needed something else to sustain my drunkenness, the bar down the street had opened back up. The owner was this short, angry woman who was just a few weeks out of jail for beating her boyfriend. Let's say her name was Ruby. I spent a lot of evenings in that little dive, knocking back Lone Stars, staying until she turned the lights up and told everyone left to get out. I'd keep doing that until she went to jail again, until the bank foreclosed on the place. It's a payday loan spot now. I still go there. There were these two older men in the corner. I recognize most people who went there, but not these guys. They drink whiskey on the rocks. Ruby came over and set a beer in front of me. She didn't have to ask. Wilson was there too. We were the best of friends when we were in those on those stools, but had never even talked outside that door. He did something with crypto. I'd listened to him talk about it because what else was there to do? This cold mess with your computers, I asked, making your coins or whatever. He'd explained it all many times, but it was in one ear out the other. I've got backup power, he said. Bet that cost a pretty penny. I'll get your next one, he said. Wilson was probably a billionaire. This one time, I caught him moving about $40,000 on his phone from one account to another, just casually transferring amounts that would have changed my life. Sometimes I'd mention I was broke and he'd buy me a beer, but then I could then buy myself another one at the end of the night. Goddamn cold, I said. People died, he said. Shit, I said. I ain't really looked at the news. Lots. Shit. He flagged down Ruby and got a couple of shots of Soko. I could barely handle the stuff. This one time when I was 19, we had a party. We only drank Soko Amaretto Limes because of that one brand new song. I ended up breaking a picnic table. I knew the wood was all rotted. but I sat on top of it anyway, and the whole thing collapsed under me. This girl I was seeing ran over to check on me, said she was going to call 911 because my arm was gashed open. I said, no, it's fine. Just a little blood. There's still a scar. We sat and talked about nothing for a long while. I never knew what half the things he said were, but he was confident about them. I nodded along, something about decentralization. Eventually, he settled his tab, had to get back to his girlfriend, which was always what he said at the end of the night. I never saw her, so who knows if she was real, if anything was real. Two older guys were still there. There'd been a few comers and goers, but at that point it was them, me, Ruby. It was snowing again. They could have rolled another blackout at any time. I grabbed a fresh beer and slid over toward the men. Gentlemen, I said, hope you don't mind. They didn't, or at least they said they didn't. One of the guys was probably late 60s, veins poking through his skin, overalls with a John Deere hat. The other was maybe 10 years his junior. That age where you can't hide you're going bald, but you feel too young to just let it all go. He had this big Tom Selleck mustache and a pair of sunglasses on top of his head. What a surprise that he used to be on the force. They asked me about the weather, if I was surviving it, how many times I'd lost power. The cop, he said, he grew up in Michigan. Even though he was used to this sort of thing, this was the worst he could remember. I made a joke about the power grid and Republicans, and they shot me a look, so I played it off. Ha ha, to all politicians, both sides. And the other man, a grass farmer, laughed and clinked his glass against mine. We kept drinking. It was all there was for us. Eventually, the ex-cop started talking about his son. He was gay, the son. The guy had kicked him out at 18, 15 years ago. First 10 of those, he had no idea where he was, but then he showed up at the father's door one day. He said it was the second time he ever cried. He didn't tell me what the first one was. I guess the third was that night. He started weeping. The son was living with him now. He'd left the blue line and was just trying to mend things that couldn't really be mended. I just want to be a good father, he said. He was sobbing like I'd never seen a man do. He put his arms around me. I didn't know what to say, so I just told him he was a good father, the best father. It seemed easiest. His friend said, come on, buddy, let's get you out of here. And then the two of them were gone. Ruby handed me another beer on the house, she said. It was all I could do to finish half of it. Um, yeah, I'm just gonna read that one, I think. I don't know how long that took, and I don't even know where the other one went. So I'm gonna just call it there.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, so obviously you're a returnee. You did poetry last time, prose this time, and I don't I don't know if I picked up on it or mentioned it last time. And the poetry one that you did last time, that was your first poetry one in a while, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'd taken a kind of a break from
Right.
I don't know, literature for
So
a while, but
I
I,
really like your poetry reading, and I obviously enjoy your poetry a lot. I would say, um, interestingly enough, I feel like this time, like that was like almost an ASMR experience. The way that you read, there's so there's something about the way that you read that story prose wise. It was very kind of hypnotic. Um, and I feel like that's actually like my biggest takeaway in a way is just like that was a very kind of I don't know, you have a very, very interesting reading voice. And I feel like when you did the poetry, maybe because it was so stop and start, because the poems aren't that long, but I just kind of like sank into that. And it was like, I don't know, it was very, very immersive in a way. Again, thank you for reading. Great as always. That's our last scheduled reader, but if anybody wants to do any open mic, I'm probably going to do a little, but I'm not going to read my own stuff because I'm sick of reading my own stuff. But if anybody else is interested, drop something in the chat and let me know. Otherwise, I am going to read a few. Okay. Yeah, if nobody else wants to, oh, okay, Nancy wants to do one, so I'm gonna pass things over to Nancy. I'm gonna get you. unmuted, and then I will mute myself.
Hello. It's actually Connor Holtman.
Connor, I'm going by your screen name, and again, I didn't see you over there. I was wondering because you asked me for the link, and I was like, "All right, where's Connor? Who the fuck is Nancy?" All
Yeah, I
right,
use my girlfriend's because I don't know how to use Zoom.
all right. Hey,
All right, I'll read a few poems from my poetry book that just came out. Jumped in Sound, Old Pond, Frogs of Water. This has been a really good reading, by the way. Everyone did a great job. I really enjoyed listening to it. I'll just read a couple of short haiku. This one is called pound sign 60810D. Fire grand, sleep silly, boy, killed God, shot your baby so slowly. This next one is called pound sign 975D7A. Flock shot, all ugly daddy feeling. My honestly, this. And this last one is called pound sign D8ACD6. Touches marvel. Greased eyes, ouch. Fertile spiral. Timidly clever. Thanks.
great. Thank you, Connor. Connor um edits heavy quotes loser, which is a very interesting. I'm gonna call it a social experiment. Whether that's intentional or not. Again, I listened to a podcast where it was just about like I just wanted colored books with writing in it, and
Oh yeah.
do and do I trust that? I don't think that's a lie, but I think it's a partial truth. I find Connor very interesting.
Thank
Hex
you.
goes.
To Caitlin's question, the titles are hexadecimal color codes. And I think we've had some loser contributors in the reading so far. Travis has been in it before. For anyone interested, I have this like ongoing print only magazine. You can find the guidelines when they go up on like Twitter, Substack, and Instagram. And we don't reject anything until an issue is full. So if you've had any trouble publishing something, we don't reject anything until it's full. So you might be interested in Loser.
It's a bit of a disaster, but it's a really interesting disaster. Um, does anybody else want to read? Otherwise, I'm gonna read some stuff. All right, I'm gonna count to five, and then I'm gonna read some Dodo stuff if nobody else says anything. All right.
Can I read one sentence?
Yes, you can read one sentence.
So I also do creative nonfiction, and I have a piece out right now sitting with one place, and I'm waiting to hear from them before I do anything else with it. I think it's kind of epic in spots and unique and unusual. And I just want to read you the first sentence just to pique your interest, or let's see how you take to it. Um, the piece is called Quaalude Summer, set in 1979, true story, Comac, Long Island, where I grew up. And here's the lead, very quick. The story you are about to hear is true. I'd like to say the names have been changed to protect the innocent, but there's only one name, and he wasn't innocent, and he was killed by gangsters after giving me a quaalude that helped me lose my virginity. Thank you.
All right, I'm interested. I'm interested. That's a good early hook. That's a very good early hook.
It's 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 a unique, crazy, twisted, not twisted. It has a nice big twist. Um, and a little bit epic at times. And I got it at one place right now. Let's
All
just
right.
wait to hear.
Okay. Okay, I am going to go ahead
Hey,
and I'm gonna,
Travis.
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I'd rather do it now than when you're reading or just disappear.
Yeah.
I gotta go pretty soon to pick up my kid from school. It's a totally different time zone here. Different day actually. Um, it's Friday here. But yeah, thank you for having me. I gotta run. Let my dog out to piss, who's crying at the door, and then go pick up my kid. So thank you so much. Thank you everybody for your sharing your stuff. You taught me I need to get a lot better at reading because I suck at it, but I'll work on
You
it.
did very good. Stop being so hard on yourself.
The reading bit, I stumble on Dr. Seuss with my kids sometimes, so I gotta practice the reading
I
bit. But
I still
um,
stumble too. So, yeah, it's a thing. It happens. You did a good
I'll
job.
if you keep that chat open a little bit longer, I'll post a picture of that painting I couldn't show you if it interests anyone, and the movie that what it's from because it's a really good movie. Um, but yeah, I got to run, and thank you for having me, Travis, and thank you everybody. That was awesome. I'm gonna check out all these books I need to get. So yeah, I'll be seeing you around in the other spaces.
All right,
All right.
James.
Later,
Cool. Thanks a
James.
lot, guys. See
Good
ya.
to
Okay.
have you. All right, let me bring up some of these. So normally I'm very um again, I usually read my own stuff and I thought about it, but I've been not writing as much this month. I've been focusing more on the journal, which has been nice. I think it's getting some gears going. And so I'm gonna read basically a few poems that have been recently published in the journal, kind of plug it. Again, if you haven't been in the journal before, even if you have been in the journal before, because I believe some of the early contributors, we have like a 6 month wait, but that's over now. I'd love to read your work and get it in there, and yeah. So I am going to read a prose poem called Dream by Kikaraki Kawaguchi, who is one of my favorite writers. Very, very happy to have his work on Dodo Eraser. So this is Dream by Kikaraki Kawaguchi. My friend Semi sat upon a horse. The horse had, no cleaner way to say this, the largest erection I'd ever seen. It seemed Semi hadn't spotted it yet. Should I say something? Because if they were about to shoot off, to gallop, and it seemed they were, might the erection lead to accident or injury? The horse was making a lot of excited noises and jerking at some dark bread in Sem's hand. Sem's other hand was waving a crop as though rousing an orchestra. For all I know, people rode horses with groaners all the time. Maybe it was even necessary for riding? What did I know of life at the country club? I didn't want to seem rude, but I also had gruesome visions of horses' legs and horses' radish becoming tangled, and Sem getting thrown, rolled over upon, maybe even penetrated down in the clover. I decided I should say something. I said, Sem, is it normal for your horse to have a big one on your ride? Sem looked up blankly. Big what? He said. A big large horsewood, I said. A horseous middlewood. Oh, Sem said. He lightly slapped his cheek with the tip of his riding crop. That's rock horse. You know rock horse. I shrugged. It's normal both rocking horse and rockback rider be hard as statues, Sem said. Back and forth. Button forks. A clover on all fours. You know, right? I felt relieved I'd said something. I'm glad you said something, he said. You know, he said, sometimes in the anger of battle, race car drivers will come all over themselves. Oh, I said, I think I read about that in Harper's. I definitely hadn't. I just didn't want to sound judgmental. Yup, he said, the crab poison all over themselves. I hoped Sem would ask me to fire the starter pistol tucked in his boot, but he didn't. He stared ahead into the copse of tall, grim trees. Then he said, I wonder which one of our friends will lose all their hair first. Okay, so that's Dream by Kikuragi Kawaguchi. I'm gonna go ahead and do two more. I'm gonna do Drevlo's recent poem, Just Like Your Father. If you throw a baseball up high enough to where you lose it in the sun, you can pretend that gravity is your daddy instead of the deadbeat who abandoned you and your mother 4 years ago. You can pretend that gravity is the type of daddy who doesn't call you a worthless little pussy when you duck up and cover up with your glove as the baseball eventually comes back to earth 15 feet away from you, where you cower on your knees. Just like your father, your mom used to always say when she'd pitch the ball underhanded and you duck instead of swinging for the fences like the man she told you you needed to be. That's what I need, she'd say. Another man baby in this family with no balls. And I'm going to do one more, and this one was published today. It's by Cynthia Atkins, and it's called Loneliness.
Oh, this is great. Yeah.
Because I am trying to understand human loneliness scientifically, I mean, I'm aiming to measure it in a beaker, study it on a graph. I want to look it up in the Encyclopedia Britannica under L. Search for the bio of the guy who conceived of foghorns to have found the pitch, perfect sound of our dread. He must have lived in a hovel by the sea, must have understood the echo of a cloud. I'm looking to sit in the church to my bellows. Sadness I used to lay in the meadow with its straws of grass in my whistle hole. It was the light coming through rafters. It was the dark machine eating up my treasured cassette tapes. It has nothing to do with love of others. It lives on nothing but a void, always lurking just behind the door. I'm sitting at a kiosk, stalking an old lover on a screen, a flesh substitute for what it is I can't decipher. The fog is thicker than my soul. And that was Loneliness. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I'm going to close this one out. I appreciate everybody who read. Everybody did a great job. Um, another fun one, I hope.
Thank you,
And we'll get
Travis.
this uploaded shortly. All
Thank you,
right.
everybody.
Thank
Good.
you, Travis. Nice
Nice,
to meet you
nice
all.
meeting
Nice
everyone.
to meet you, too. All right.
Okay.
Closing out.
Bye.
Bye bye.